In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can save a ton of money by DIYing your own home decor with Dollar Tree items. Did you know that Dollar Tree has glass cutting boards? It's over usually in their kitchen section, or it may be in with the glassware. So for this first DIY, I'm going to pick up a glass cutting board. It does have 4 feet stoppers on the bottom, so I'm going to use a scraping tool to take those off. I would like to put a decorative image on the bottom side of this cutting board. So a way I like to do this is with napkins. I have this decorative napkin that I bought off of Amazon in a big pack. I'm going to start by separating the white piece on the back of the napkin. Anytime you're going to add a napkin to anything, glassware, ceramic, make sure you pull off that white backing piece. Next, I'm going to use a foam brush to do a layer of Mod Podge on the bottom side of my cutting board. Make sure you do the bottom side. Then I'm gonna take that napkin and place it down as straight as possible. Now, it's not gonna be perfect. It's going to crinkle a little bit. Just tap it down and be careful to not tear your napkin. If you do tear your napkin, it's okay. You could add additional pieces on there if you need to. Then I'm going to let this dry. From there, you can cut off the rest of your napkin. You also could pull it off if you want to. A lot of times I will do that. And then I'm going to seal it with another layer of Mod Podge on the underside. Now you can use this anywhere in your house. I think it's perfect in your kitchen. I'm gonna set mine out with some oils that I have in my kitchen. Not only can you find items to DIY in the glassware section, you can also find them in the plastic partyware section. If you guys ever go over there, there are a ton of different items. So I picked up this set of 3 bowls and I thought about painting them, but I said, you know what? It's been a while since I've done a paint pour. So I wanted to do that in today's video. So to paint pour, this is one of my favorite techniques. You're going to need something that your paint can drip down in. This is a container I have. I've spray painted in it. It's really one of those crafting tubs that I use. You want to elevate the item that you're going to paint pour. So I had some other glass cups. I'm going to set those upside down, then put the bowls that I want to paint pour on top. From there, you're going to need to figure out what colors you want to paint pour. So I wanted to go very neutral. So in my craft room, I found a white paint pour paint. These, they used to sell at Dollar Tree. I haven't seen them there in a while, but if you need paint pour paints, you can also pick them up at Hobby Lobby. I'm sure there's probably some on Amazon as well. You could use regular paint, but paint pour paint is just a little bit thinner, and so it goes on a little bit easier. So the colors I'm going to be using are a white, a tan, and a black. In a cup, you're going to combine all these colors. So I'm going to add more white and not as much black because I feel like that color will be a little bit more dominant. So I'm going to alternate the colors until it's full. From there, you're going to drizzle this paint onto your bowl. Start in the middle. You want to really let that paint run down because you're going to get cool lines that appear basically from the dripping paint. Make sure your bowl is completely covered. If it's not covered, you could add in a little bit more paint pour. With the paint pour, you want to continue to let these drip dry for at least 24 hours before you move them. Paint pour is a little hard because you never know exactly what you're gonna get. Sometimes I love the way they turn out. Sometimes I'm not so happy with them, but I really like the neutral look of these paint pour bowls. Let me show you how you can make your own tabletop fire pit. So you're going to need something to put it in. You want to make sure you're using a fire safe container. So I'm going to be using this terracotta pot from Walmart. You're also going to need one of these canned heat containers. So I'm going to add in some black rocks to my terracotta container. I'll also put in the canned heat and then continue to add the rocks along the edge. It's perfect for your outdoor patio or while camping. Let me show you how to make a simple tray that you can use in your kitchen. Now, I've been making these trays for years. They're perfect for displaying your fruit or really any items you have around your kitchen. So at Dollar Tree, there's usually a new line of plates or dinnerware out. So I picked up these blue plates. So you're going to need a dinner plate, a salad plate, and a bowl. You're also going to need 2 candle holders. So go over to the candle holder section and find 2 that you like. You could use the glass ones, or in my case, I'm going to be using these white ones. ones. Then you're gonna be able to put this all together really simply. You're gonna start with your dinner plate on the bottom. Then you're gonna add a layer of E6000 to the bottom of the candle holder. You wanna line it up in the middle. Then you're going to add E6000 to the top of that candle holder and place on the salad plate. Put a little bit more E6000 on your other candle holder, place it on top of the salad plate, and then you'll add a little bit more E6000 and put your bowl on top. Once you do this, you wanna move everything around so it's nice and centered. So get down at eye level and kind of adjust where you need to. Let this dry for 24 hours and then you have a great fruit tray to have out in your home. Would you love the look of a cake cover, but you don't want to spend the money? You may have a cake plate at your house and you want a cover for it. Let me show you something you can pick up at Dollar Tree. So they have a bowl over in the plastic section. It's very decorative and super cute. This makes a perfect cover for any of your cake plates. You just need to add a knob to the bottom side. So I went through my craft room, found a knob that I had. I'm going to be using E6000 to apply it to the bottom of the bowl. Let it dry for 24 hours. And then you can use it in your home as a cake plate cover. When you're at Dollar Tree, if you see this tray, this makes a perfect base for any picture frame. This tray has been out for years and I'm gonna show you how you can make it into a frame. So I'm gonna start by spray painting it. I'm gonna be using the color Sand Dollar. This is one of my favorite like ivory neutral colors. So I'm gonna spray paint both sides with that color. I'm also going to use a stone texture spray. This one is my lighter stone texture spray and it's just gonna add a little bit of texture to this frame. I think this helps, especially with it being plastic, to give it more of a realistic look. Let that dry completely, and then you're going to add a print. So the print I got was off of Amazon. I will link it for you down below, or I'll put the QR code right here. You can scan to get to that print. I'm going to roll the print out, and I'm gonna place it on the back side of my tray. Now there's a little bit of a lip around the tray. So what I like to do is mark around where I need to cut. So I'm gonna be using my box cutter, but the material for this print was canvas, so I wasn't able to just cut it with my box cutter. So I just marked around the edges and then I'll cut it out with my scissors. Next, I'm going to place it down and make sure that it's the right size, and I'll add E6000 to the bottom of the tray. Place my print down and I'll let it sit and dry. You could also use hot glue if you wanted to, but sometimes hot glue is a little bit raised up, so I like how flat the E6000 is. Now, don't worry if your print is not perfect around the edges. A lot of times when I put these prints on, they are not perfect. So what I like to do is come around with another layer of paint. What I did was I pulled out a white and tan colored acrylic paint, put a little bit out on my table, and I'm gonna mix these two colors together and just do a line around the edge of my print. Keep adding color until you're happy with it. I added a little bit more white as I went around. For me, it just makes the picture blend in more with my frame. And then you can display this in your home. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Comment the word of the day, which is plate. If you don't have a Cricut, but you want to add labels to your glassware, let me show you an option you can try. So what you're going to need is any glassware. These are containers that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I want to use them in my pantry. You're also going to need to print off some labels. One of my favorite places to find labels is on Etsy. I will link to the SVG file that I bought off of Etsy to use in this DIY. You're just going to print off your labels on an inkjet printer. Next, I'm going to cut out the ones I want to use. So next, the key is packing tape. So I'm gonna take off a piece of packing tape, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna place it down onto your label. Now the next part is a little weird. What you're gonna do is you're going to get this back piece wet. So you're going to try to remove the white paper to just leave the black ink. Next, it's gonna be really important to let these labels dry. Now, once they're dry, you may have a little bit of excess tape, so just cut them down. You need a little bit of tape, but it doesn't need to be super long. So trim them down on either side. Next, you're gonna figure out where you wanna put your label on your jar. You're gonna center it up and just place the tape down. The next time you go shopping at Dollar Tree, be on the lookout for this new set of viral plates. They're in this blue finish, so gorgeous. They have great plates, bowls. They also have these really pretty glass cups. I'm not gonna do a DIY with these, but I wanted to show you how you could hang plates on your wall. I feel like hanging plates on the wall has always been a popular thing, but it's starting to have a resurgence. I found a product on Amazon that I wanted to show you for how you could hang your plates on a wall. These are 4-inch adhesive disc plate hangers. With your finger, you're going to mix a little bit of water on the back of the plate hanger to activate the glue. You're going to leave this alone for a few minutes so that the glue can get sticky and activated. Next, you're going to put the disc on the back of your plate and let this dry completely overnight. The next day you can come back in and add these plates to any nail on your wall. And here's how the Dollar Tree plates look hanging on my wall. Do you guys remember when I was thrifting and I found that blue and white dish and I added in a sand candle? Well, I have that out in my kitchen right now and really like it, but I was wondering if I could do it with Dollar Tree items. So when I was shopping there, I got one of their most basic candle holders. You guys know these, they've had them for years. And then I also bought this pretty bowl. I feel like this bowl is great and we need to use it in more DIYs because it is so pretty. And all I did was add the two together. I put E6000 on the candle holder and place that bowl on top. Now, the sand mixture you can buy off of Amazon and it comes in a pack. You just pour it into the bowl. It also comes with the wicks and the bases that you'll need. So you're going to take the wicks, thread them through the base and cut them to the size that you need them to be. And then you just place them down into the bottom of your candle. You don't need to glue them or anything. I put 4 in and then I placed this in my front room and I'll show you how it looks all lit up. When I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I came across this racket in the summer toys and it reminded me so much of those screens that people use to place in bowls whenever they're putting in floral stems. And I thought, let's try to recreate that DIY. I found a large bowl in the kitchen section and also a smaller bowl. So we're gonna start by painting the bowls. And anytime I'm wanting to figure out a fun paint technique, I always look on Pottery Barn's website for inspiration. I came across this planter and it had this cool like white and blue finish to it. So I was thinking, okay, how could I recreate this, add in texture? So I had about a half container of spackling. So that's gonna be my base. To that, I added some blue paint that I had, and then I also added in a little bit of sand from Dollar Tree. Now, because in the inspiration you have that white and blue mix, I didn't want to completely mix these two together. So I just roughly used a scraping tool to mix these two paint colors together. Once it was kind of roughly mixed, I started with the large bowl and I'm going to add it to the outside of the bowl. I'm just going to use my scraper to apply this spackling. You want to make sure that you completely cover the bowl, but it does not have to look perfect. In fact, it looks better the more rough texture that it has. So I'll do that with the first bowl and then I'll do the same thing with the smaller bowl. Let this dry completely. After it's dry, you want to look at it and see if you need to add in any additional spackling or paint. Then on the smaller bowl, I'll put E6000 on the bottom and then place the larger bowl on top. Make sure that it's nice and level. Now with the racket, you need to cut off the handle. So I used my handsaw to cut it a little bit, but I ended up just snapping it in half after I cut it a little bit. So you could probably just snap the handle off. Next, I placed the top portion of my racket into my bowl and I added hot glue to secure it in place. Now, once you have this in place, you could add in any florals. Dollar Tree has really been stepping up the florals that they've come out with. So I picked out some of my favorite florals from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to bend the bottom of the stems and place them into the screens. I added 2 different varieties of florals and then just move them around till you're happy with the appearance. I love the full appearance in these florals and it just looks so great sitting out. So when I was shopping at Dollar Tree, I found these little decorative balls that I thought this might be a really modern looking tray if I could get it to work. So I bought one of those. I also got a dessert plate over in the kitchen section. I E6000 this ball to the bottom of my plate, but because it was going to roll around, I had to use some painter's tape to hold it in place while it was drying. So I added like 3 or 4 different pieces of painter's tape around, and then I brought it up to the top. Now I did make sure I flipped it over and made sure that it was sitting level before I let it dry, but once I had it exactly where I wanted it, I let it dry overnight. The next day I came back in and I removed the painter's tape. Now I wanted to paint this a fresh color for spring, so I found this gorgeous green color that I had gotten a paint sample from. I mixed it with some baking soda and I did 2 coats starting with the underside and then I did the top. Let that dry and then I came back in and did an additional coat of paint. And this tray would be so pretty sitting out maybe by your sink. You could put your jewelry on it, or it would be great sitting out by your kitchen sink next to your soap. I found this unique piece at the thrift store and I thought it could be really cool with a solar light. So I cleaned it up really well and then I took a solar light from Dollar Tree, took the base off, and then I used E6000 to place it on that little ledge on that piece. I let this dry completely and then I wanted it to look kind of like a lamp. So I found this clear bowl that they have at Dollar Tree. It was a plastic bowl and I thought it kind of looked like a lamp shade. So I'm gonna use E6000 on the top of my solar light and just place it on top. I don't know, what do you guys think? It looks like a lamp to me. For this next DIY, you're gonna need a charger plate, a dinner plate, and a salad plate. I needed to make them all the same color, so I'm gonna start by spray painting them with that same gold color that we've been using on the back and the front. I wanted to give these plates a little bit of dimension, so I added 2 different colors of rub and buff to the exterior of the plate. Now, the smallest plate, I did add a lot of rub and buff to the top of that plate because that plate you're gonna see more than my other plates. Next, I'm going to stack all the plates up and attach them with E6000. I wanted a little bit more dimension around the edges, so I added a brown paint color to make it stand out. Once this is dry, you can add on your favorite plant. Another item I love to make from Dollar Tree is tiered trays, and they're fairly easy to do. I'm gonna do a different twist, one I haven't done before, but for this tiered tray, you're gonna need a dinner plate, a salad plate, 2 vases, and you're also going to need a smaller mirror. Now, this mirror I picked up at Walmart. You can find similar small mirrors at Dollar Tree. So I wanted to add the base of this mirror into one of my vases. So I mixed up some Quikrete and water, and the Quikrete, I wanted it to be fairly runny so that I could put it into my vase without getting it on the outside. So I poured the Quikrete in till it was about, maybe like a 1/2 inch from the top. Next, I'm going to tap my vase on my table to get any air bubbles out. Then on my mirror, there's a piece that kind of hangs down because this is a foldable mirror. I'm gonna take that longer piece and set it directly into my Quikrete. I want this to set up so it's in the middle. So what I did was get some painter's tape and wrap that around this mirror to hold it in place while it dried overnight. Next, I formed my tier tray. So I started with the dinner plate on the bottom. Then I added a little bit of E6000 and placed the vase on next. I'll put E6000 on the top of that vase, put on the salad plate, and then I'll add a little bit of E6000 to the middle and place on my vase with the mirror. Once your vase has a chance to dry, you just take off the painter's tape. And this is great to set out in your bathroom for your jewelry or just odds and ends that you have. One of the best finds I picked up at Dollar Tree in a really long time is this coffee mug. It comes in 4 different patterns, and I have to tell you, it looks exactly like a Pottery Barn style coffee mug, and it's just $1.25. One of the big trends I've been noticing on Pottery Barn's website is using larger bowls or planters and even mugs to create candles. So that's the trend I wanted to use with this mug. Now the wax melt that I'm going to be using is one that I've used several times off of Amazon. I will link it for you down in the description box. I also have a designated pot that is just an old pot that I use for melting candle wax. So I'll put the wax melt into the pot. I used to stir it, but honestly, I just turn it on kind of like a low medium setting and I will let it melt. Once it was melted, I transferred the wax melt into the mug and I needed a little bit more wax melt. So just do that same process again and fill your mug up till you're happy with it. I'm also going to be adding in my candle wick. Now to support my candle wick until it has time to dry, I'm gonna put 4 popsicle sticks on the top of my mug and then I'll use painter's tape to hold them in place. Now from there, I don't touch this. I let it sit completely until it's cooled completely and the wax melt has hardened. From there, just remove the painter's tape, cut down your wick and style it in your home. Blue has been such a popular color this year. I wanted to recreate something that was a little bit more traditional in that blue color. So 2 of these items that Dollar Tree's had out a while, I picked up this blue and white bowl. I also picked up this clear bowl that they have. You guys have probably seen this at your Dollar Tree. So I wanted to create a pedestal bowl. So I'm going to flip over the blue and white bowl, add a little bit of E6000 to it, and then put my clear bowl on top. Now you could put real fruit in there. I found these faux pears at Dollar Tree and I love the way they look and I just think this is so cute together. Anthropologie has these really cool jewelry dishes on their website. They may even be candle holders, but I thought it was neat enough that I wanted to try to recreate it. So I bought one of these clear candle holders at Dollar Tree. You've probably seen them before. They've had them out for years. I also got some gold leaf. Now, sometimes you can find gold leaf in the craft section, but I wasn't able to find it, so I did order mine. I'll link to it below. So I started this project by just adding some matte Mod Podge with a foam brush on my entire clear dish. Then I just took that gold leaf and added it to almost like 1/3 of it. And with gold leaf, you just want to press it down and it'll hold in place. Once that dried completely, I did come back and do a second coat of the Mod Podge, putting it on the clear side first, and then I covered over the gold leaf. Once it dries completely, you can use this as a dish to hold your jewelry. I just love creating little dishes like this. There's so many great trays out right now at Dollar Tree, and I showed you a few of them in my last Dollar Tree Shop With Me video. They have a lemon style tray. They also have turtles. There was a butterfly tray, and my favorite, I think, was the watermelon tray. I picked up a few of these summer trays to show you how you could use them around your home. Now with the lemons, I got a bowl and one of the smaller lemon trays. I added E6000 to the bottom of the bowl and then placed the tray on the top. Once this is dry, it's perfect to have out in your kitchen for summer. I also picked up this butterfly tray, and I can't wait to use it in my daughter's bedroom. It's gonna look perfect sitting out as a vanity tray. When I was looking on Studio McGee's site, I found this gorgeous metal candle holder, and I thought this we could definitely recreate with Dollar Tree items. So the first thing you're gonna need to pick up is a plate. I felt like the smaller plates would be best, and I wanted to find one as flat as possible. So I'm gonna be using this white plate. And then you're also going to need one of Dollar Tree's clear glass vases. So to start off, we need to paint the bottom, and I wanted this to have a metal appearance because in the Studio McGee one, it definitely looks metalled. It has that hammered finish. So to achieve this look, I started by painting it with a base of black. Typically in most of our projects, when we're going to be layering, you want to start off with a base color, and black seems to be a great base color for a hammered finish. So I did one solid coat on the back side and the front side, and then I let that dry completely. Next, I'm going to try to add that hammered finish onto the plate. So I pulled out 4 colors from acrylic paints that I had. I was going for silvers, golds, I wanted some whites, and I also went with like an espresso brown color. So I'm gonna put those colors out, and then using a paper towel, I'm gonna take a paper towel and crumple it up. I'm gonna dip the paper towel into my paint, and then I'll dab it on my craft table to get off any excess. I want very little paint on my paper towel for this next step. Then I'm gonna start dabbing the various paint colors onto my plate. So I'll put on the gold, I'll add the silver, then I'll come in with the white. Now at this point, you really need to start blending. So to blend, I want to start bringing back in some of those dark colors. So next I'm going to be adding in that espresso brown color, and that's going to tone down the colors and kind of mix them together really well. I took a step back and they weren't blending as well as I wanted them to, so I added a little bit of black, which was my original color, just to tone down the colors a little bit. Once I was happy with it, I let it dry completely. Then I used some E6000 on the bottom of my glass vase, placed it on my plate, and when that was dry, I just added in a candle, and you guys will have to let me know how well you think my dupe turned out. Wanted to try to recreate something that I found on Anthropologie's website. Now for this DIY, you're going to need 2 different sizes of planters from Dollar Tree. I used one of their $1.25 ones and a $5 planter. You're also going to need 2 dinner plates. Get a dinner plate and a smaller salad plate. Now I wanted these to be a terracotta color, so I have a sample paint in a terracotta color. I'll mix the terracotta with some baking soda. I like to do this because it makes the paint a bit grittier, and so it cuts down on the amount of coats you'll have to do. So I'm gonna put a coat on every piece I have on the planters. I will also do it on the plates, front and back. I let this dry completely, and then I came back in and did a second coat. Once your planter and your plate is dry, you can attach these. The best way to do it is to add some E6000 to the bottom of your planters and place your plate on top. Let it dry overnight. Do you guys remember on our last shopping trip when I showed you this leaf placemat? Well, I came up with an idea for it. So I have the leaf placemat, and I also went to the party section and got one of these clear bowls. Love the shape of it. So what I wanted to do was wrap the gold placemat around this bowl. So I started at the top and I hot glued it in place. And then I just started to wrap it around, adding a little bit of hot glue here and there. I wanted it to be very secure on my bowl. So I wrapped it around until it was almost covered. Then I started to cut it along the bottom so that it was even with the bottom of the bowl. I did hot glue those pieces in place, and then I continued to hot glue it until it was secure, cutting off the remainder of the gold placemat. Next, I added in some rocks, and you could put any florals in here. I've styled it with some new florals that they have out at Dollar Tree. Have you ever had your own propagation station? Let me show you how to make it with Dollar Tree items. You're gonna wanna get 3 packs of the salt and pepper shakers that they sell at Dollar Tree for a total of 6. The other thing you're going to need is some sort of base. I went with this wood slice that they have at Dollar Tree. So I removed the tops of the salt and pepper shakers and laid them out to see how many I could fit on my wood piece. Next, I'm going to use E6000 to attach them all together. Then you're going to let these dry overnight. Now with my base, I added in the stain color Early American, and I just painted that on and wiped off any excess. I wanted to raise this up and make it a pedestal style. So I have this silicone mold in my craft room, and I also had some Quikrete, and I thought I could make some bases from this silicone mold. So I'm gonna be using the Quikrete, and I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of water. I mix it up until it's a thick pudding consistency. And then I'm going to put the mixture into my silicone molds. Now I only need 4, but I'm gonna make 6 because I find that sometimes when I do stuff with Quikrete, some of it doesn't turn out great. So I like to make a few extras. I'm gonna place it in the silicone molds, and then I'm also going to shake that silicone mold, tapping it down on my table to get out any air bubbles that might be in the mold. And I'm just going to fill it up till it's level at the top. Let your Quikrete dry overnight. And then you can pop the silicone molds out. And then I'll use E6000 to put these little legs on the bottom of my wood piece. Your propagation station is almost ready. So I'm not an expert at propagating plants, but I did look up how to do it. This plant grows great, and so I thought this would be a perfect plant to try. Essentially what you're going to do, and I'll kind of show you down here. So on this right here, see where there's like a little dot right here, and then there's one here and here. This is a root system. So if you cut just a little bit below this root system and put that, it should grow roots so that you can propagate. So we'll just put these tiny little plants inside. I found these silver metallic bowls on Studio Mickey's website, and metallic colors seem to be very much in right now. So I wanted to recreate that look. So at Dollar Tree, I got just 3 of their regular white bowls. They've had these now for a while. I also picked up some of their candles and some black rocks. I'm gonna spray paint each of the bowls with a silver metallic color. After that dries, I'm gonna use a little bit of black rub and buff and run that along the edges of my bowls. On the inside of my bowl, I'm gonna fill it up with those black rocks, and then I'll place the candles inside. I think this would look great sitting out in your living room. It would also make a great centerpiece for your table. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite DIY was. I love knowing your opinion. And make sure you subscribe because I want to see you back here, and I'll see you in our next one. Bye.